Then we see Du Kyung-gu, with his hair settled down, looking at all the people who are standing ahead of him as rain is pouring down. He then speaks up and asks if the person is Lee Sang-cheol, referring to one of the people he knew from before. The man in question is standing in the central and is leading the pack of gangsters from the front. He confirms that he is Lee Sang-cheol and says that it is very unfortunate that they have to meet in these circumstances. After all, they were like family back in the days. Du Kyung-gu is serious about this whole thing and he asks Lee Sang-cheol what kind of situation are they in at the moment. Lee Sang-cheol continues speaking with a smirk as he says that Du Kyung-gu must have expected only the President Won Chong-soo from the Saekgangnam to have come to this place to meet him. However, as Du Kyung-gu can see clearly, there are tons of people has come to meet him. Du Kyung-gu is still all tensed up, and he says that what is happening at the moment wasn't something that he had expected by any means. Whereas Lee Sang-cheol calls him a naive person and asks if Du Kyung-gu even knows about how the life of a gangster works. Lee Sang-cheol then explains to Du Kyung-gu that they've decided to attack when he is alone and easily push him out of commission. Then that will be the starting step of something huge, as they also want to take down Kim Gun-woo and make things easier for Yoon Sang-tae and make him the undisputed president without any opposers trying to ruin his business. This statement visibly angers Du Kyung-gu. We can see the anger on his face after listening to Lee Sang-cheol. However, he keeps calm and tries to ignore. However, it is getting harder. Lee Sang-cheol smirks again and asks Du Kyung-gu if that was it and if he was done so quickly. As we see rage in his eyes, Du Kyung-gu tries to say something about starting from the beginning, but he is quickly cut off by Lee Sang-cheol, who confidently says that this will be the last day of Du Kyung-gu's life. Cut to another scene, we are back at the building where Saekgangnam operate and where Yiho went in caused utter havoc to beat everyone to an inch of their lives. We go there and see that the hotel is still stained with the blood of the people who had been attacked by Yiho. There, Yiho is using a towel to wipe away the blood splatters that had gotten in his face. Meanwhile, the manager of Saekgangnam sits there quietly on his knees, almost as if he is begging to be spared. Yiho then asks the Saekgangnam manager what had happened and what they are doing as of now. The manager of Saekgangnam says that it's indeed true that they all had believed that Du Kyung-gu had hired a mercenary to protect their karaoke bar, and that mercenary had caused the issues of the world. And so he, the manager, was ready to assess the situation on his own and go about things. However, seeing someone like Du Kyung-gu stoop down so low, and basically begging for forgiveness is what made them change their mind. Yiho then asks if that caused them to change their mind and go after Du Kyung-gu himself. The manager then reveals to Yiho that about 40 to 50 men, if not more, have went to the again karaoke bar to take care of Du Kyung-gu. Yiho then asks the manager what his role is in this whole scenario, to which the manager says that he is nothing but a minor bait. Yiho then asks the manager why he hadn't decided to go with the rest of the people to go and attack Du Kyung-gu, to which the manager has a hard time replying as he can't explain. After a while, he is able to explain by saying that he was once a family with Du Kyung-gu, and despite him being at a much lower level, Du Kyung-gu would always respect him and support him. So that is why the manager felt uncomfortable with this going down and decided to stay back. This makes Yiho go into thinking mode. The scene then changes back to the again karaoke bar, where we see Du Kyung-gu running back into the building and rushing himself to close the door and then use the additional locks to lock it up. Such is his fear that hurls up a sofa and puts it against the door to create a stable base so that the Saekgangnam thugs can't get in. Du Kyung-gu curses out from the inside, but the door isn't going to hold up long because we hear a loud sound of something hitting against the door. After a few more bangs on the door finally breaks open and the horde of people from the Saekgangnam gang dash right into the building, and they are there to cause havoc as all of them are carrying steel rods as weapons. Du Kyung-gu takes a few steps back before getting his feet in and getting into boxing stance to fight with the group on his own. Lee Sang-cheol is amused by this and he asks Du Kyung-gu why is he so adamant about surviving. Du Kyung-gu answers Lee Sang-cheol by saying that he still has a lot of things to do in his life while he is still alive and kicking. Lee Sang-cheol gets annoyed by this and orders his folks to attack him head-on and at full power, while he tells Du Kyung-gu that he will make sure that things don't happen how he wants it to happen. Then we see Yiho running down the street as rain keeps pouring down. He is going at full speed to make sure he makes it in time. On the other hand, we see the manager of Saekgangnam and his main lackey, both beaten up and battered by Yiho, wondering just what can they do from here on out. The bald lackey asks his manager if they should go or not. The manager replies simply by saying that they have no choice but to go, as they can't afford to get on Yoon Sang-tae's bad side. No one gets on that guy's bad side and lives long enough to tell the story. Then as the manager is scrolling through his phone, we see a very conflicted and stressed look on him. He doesn't know what to do. He says that people like him, who are in need of the money, can never be a good fit for these jobs. He says that he never intended on betraying his people, however, he is left with no choice but to do so. We then see that he has Kim Gun-woo's contact on his phone, and he is about to call there. Back to the again karaoke bar office, the fight has begun. Punches are being thrown hard as we see a combination of straight punches, uppercuts to the center of the chin and hooks to the side of the face being delivered by Do Kyung-gu to his opponents, and we see that he has managed to take out a good chunk of his attackers on his own using his boxing skills. However, he isn't fully unscathed either, as we see that his cheeks are a bit swollen up. As a lot of opponents are still left, Do Kyung-gu gets back into positions and one of the thugs of Saegongnam rushes in with his weapon to hit him. However, Do Kyung-gu lunges forward a bit to both avoid the attack and generate power to deliver a textbook right to the face to knock him out cold. Another one tries to come in from the side, but he meets the same fate, as Do Kyung-gu shuffles a bit and delivers a wild haymaker like right to knock him down for good. This angers Lee Sang-cheol, who can't believe it that his men, who are equipped with viable weapons, are being beaten down by a singular man, so he gets himself involved. He uses the rod that he had in his hands and hurls it towards Do Kyung-gu. The throw comes at him fast, but Do Kyung-gu uses his excellent dodging abilities to react in time and avoid the blow. However, this makes him slip a bit and lose balance. And this gives the Saegongnam crew the opportunity they were waiting for, as one of them starts it off by swinging his weapon to hit Do Kyung-gu hard on his back and making him fall down. This allows all the other chumps from Saegongnam to join in on the attack, and then they use their weapons to systematically beat up Do Kyung-gu, who lies there helplessly. Do Kyung-gu starts bleeding from the repeated hits to his body and head, and is in immense pain, but this doesn't stop Do Kyung-gu, who has the will to survive, so he powers himself back up and tries to make a run for it, but he is a little too groggy and stumbles down. Lee Sang-cheol then charges in at Do Kyung-gu at full speed before delivering a hard and brutal punt kick to Do Kyung-gu's face, which makes him splatter blood all over the area. This seems to be the end of Do Kyung-gu, as he is in no condition to get back up from that devastating kick, and the beatdown doesn't stop there, as Lee Sang-cheol gears up and then stomps on Do Kyung-gu's face, rubbing it in for further insult. Lee Sang-cheol calls him a piece of crap, and he then asks for an iron rod from one of his lackeys, who quickly hands it over to him. Just when it seems like Lee Sang-cheol is going to deliver the blow to end Do Kyung-gu's life, we see a smartphone being thrown right at Lee Sang-cheol, which hits him plump on the forehead. The phone drops down to the ground, and Do Kyung-gu notices it's the same phone model as the one that he had bought for Yiho. He thinks there's no way that he has came back to save him. Meanwhile, Lee Sang-cheol is mad as he has started bleeding from his forehead after that phone being thrown at him, and he asks just who had the courage to do that. Right then we see that some of the Saegongnam people are engaged in a fight, but it's short as they are easily blasted off, and to Do Kyung-gu's surprise, Yiho, equipped with an iron rod, has arrived to save him from the hell that was being up on the man. Yiho has arrived and he is ready to whoop some, but then we see a flashback of all the time Yiho has spent with Do Kyung-gu and all the things they have talked about throughout their journey. From first meeting in a lockup, where Yiho had asked Do Kyung-gu why he had been arrested. From there to him asking Do Kyung-gu for a place to live in and food to eat in exchange for him working at the karaoke bar. To when he told him about how the thugs had gone to his mother's funeral and insulted her and made a ruckus in the process, to when Do Kyung-gu had told him not to get involved and try something against Yoon Sang-tae as he is dangerous. They shared a lot of moments together. However, the moment that hits the hardest is when Yiho had told Do Kyung-gu that he has been on top of the field he was in for a while, so he understands how it looks like from the top, and based on that, Yiho had told Do Kyung-gu that there was no need to run away from Yoon Sang-tae and instead fight them head-on. He had promised Do Kyung-gu that he would single-handedly take them out, and now he is here to keep that promise. We see Yiho grabbing a solid long-handed grip on the iron rod because of the quantity of opponents, and he uses a rigid straightward swing to take out everyone in his path and leave them utterly destroyed with his superior kendo skills. Lee Sang-cheol can't comprehend what is happening in front of him. He is chilled by witnessing the destruction that was being made by Yiho. Even Do Kyung-gu, in his injured and bloody state, was looking at what Yiho was causing with his own two eyes for the first time and was left shocked by it. As we see Yiho still using the very traditional long-handed sword grip technique to land dynamic and fluid swings to hit his opponents in the head, we see Do Kyung-gu acknowledging Yiho to be a guy in a league of his own. To the outside portion of the again karaoke bar, we see that the rain is still pouring down heavily, and we notice someone who has come to visit the bar. As we follow the footsteps of the man, we see a huge group of people in suits have arrived to the scene with umbrellas. Soon we realize that it is none other Kim Gun-woo. Kim Gun-woo has arrived, and he enters the bar only to see the hallway as a wasteland for bodies of people and their blood splattered all across the room. He wonders what exactly went down in the karaoke bar for it to be this way now. The scene then changes to the office room of the CEO of K Entertainment, Yoon Sang-tae. Yoon Sang-tae feels his phone vibrating, and he checks it. It is a call from Kim Gun-woo of all people. We see a pissed-off director Yoon Sang-tae pick up the call and talk with Kim Gun-woo. He asks him why he had called him after what felt like ages, and why is he feeling the need to enter his area all of a sudden. He says that his R is in front of the again karaoke bar, and that's why he has entered the place. He also informs Yoon Sang-tae that his people are all over the building for some reason and asks what should be done with those guys. Yoon Sang-tae is confused and asks Kim Gun-woo what he meant. Kim Gun-woo smirks and says that he will let Yoon Sang-tae's cronies live on their lives. However, the again karaoke bar's furniture and assets were heavily damaged from the fight and asks Yoon Sang-tae to get ready and compensate for all of that. Yoon Sang-tae has an evil smile on his face while he asks Kim Gun-woo if he had eaten something weird for breakfast because he has been saying some absurd things. Kim Gun-woo also laughs it off, but he quickly gets back in mood and starts speaking seriously. Kim Gun-woo tells Yoon Sang-tae that it is indeed none of his own business to get involved in this situation. However, he reminds Yoon Sang-tae off back when he had assassinated the boss Kim Il-woong. Kim Gun-woo says that he had run away from that scene and went over to the Irium distribution and took refuge there. And since then, he has gone on to becoming a top player at the organization and has become the leader of 5 different sub-organizations. Kim Gun-woo further threatens Yoon Sang-tae by telling him the Irium distribution isn't on Yoon Sang-tae's side. They're not scared of fighting him and his cronies and suggests that if he really wants to fight Kim Gun-woo, then they can just go for an all-out war. However, if that is the case, then Yoon Sang-tae should be prepared for severe consequences and remodeling costs. Saying this, Kim Gun-woo hangs up the call, and right then, one of his subordinates asks him what should they do with Lee Sang-cheol. He is down and out, so should they just go ahead and cut off his Achilles tendon to make him incapable of moving around? Kim Gun-woo smirks and walks downstairs as he tells his subordinate to just let Lee Sang-cheol off without anything serious, which shocks the subordinate. Kim Gun-woo then explains himself by saying that someone like Lee Sang-cheol doesn't really possess a huge threat to them in the long run. He then goes downstairs and stomps on Lee Sang-cheol's face and says that incapacitating someone like Lee Sang-cheol will only make the Irium distribution come off as weak to Yoon Sang-tae, to which the subordinate agrees this time. Meanwhile, in his office, Yoon Sang-tae is wrecking everything in pure rage. He throws away his chair, flips over his table, and then breaks it. He is filled with anger. Yoon Sang-tae tries to think everything through. He did put Do Kyung-gu in the detention center. However, that didn't do anything, and the again karaoke bar was operating as normal. Seeing this, he sent over Kim Tae-chong with his crew, but they were badly beaten up. This made Yoon Sang-tae think that they were going to attack him next. However, Do Kyung-gu came off as apologetic and behaved like a pushover. However, now that he sends his men after them to take them out, they also get beaten up badly, and Kim Gun-woo appears out of nowhere. He can't really understand how stuff is going down like this, so he wonders if Kim Gun-woo was really that far ahead in his planning, or if there is a traitor in his group who sold out. Meanwhile, at a restaurant, we see Kim Gun-woo and Yiho sitting down to have an important first conversation. Kim Gun-woo has a glass of alcohol in his hands, and as he mixes it, he talks to Yiho. He asks him if he was the so-called new manager of the again karaoke bar, and if so, wasn't he told to go away by Do Kyung-gu? Then why is he here? Yiho sincerely replies back to Kim Gun-woo by saying that he had nowhere else he could go to and stay. That's why he came back to the place, as he had nowhere else to go. This makes Kim Gun-woo interested, and he looks at Yiho and asks him if he really took out all those people by himself, without anyone's help. Yiho is very straightforward in his approach to talking, so he tells Kim Gun-woo that he didn't in fact beat up all of them because half of the guys from Saegangnam had run away after his beatdown took full swing. Kim Gun-woo closely monitors everything about Yiho as he takes a shot of alcohol before putting it down on the table and asking Yiho about his grud with Yoon Sang-tae. He asks Shiho if he heard right when he heard that Shiho's family passed away because of the direct influence of Yoon Sang-tae and his various subordinates. Kim Gun-woo then stands up from his seat and walks over to Shiho and tells him that he also has a very huge grudge against Yoon Sang-tae, before putting his hand forward for a handshake. Kim Gun-woo then puts down an offer for Shiho. He suggests that why don't the both of them combine their grudges against Yoon Sang-tae and then work together in catching him. After a short while of thinking, Shiho makes his decisions and shakes the hand of Kim Gun-woo. A new alliance is born in front of our eyes. Meanwhile, at the K Entertainment office building, we see Yoon Sang-tae, the CEO, sitting with a baseball bat above his shoulder. Soon, his assistant lets him know that the CEO of the Gangnam has arrived to meet him. Won Chong-soo is nervous, but he comes inside anyway, and Yoon Sang-tae tells him to sit down. Won Chong-soo tries to maintain distance from the dangerous Yoon Sang-tae by sitting on one of the chairs that is the furthest away, but Yoon Sang-tae sees through this and orders him to come closer and sit, as he is the only one in the room now, and with no other option. Won Chong-soo reluctantly has to do as ordered. Won Chong-soo sits down nervously with his head down when Yoon Sang-tae starts talking. Yoon Sang-tae says that he will keep it straightforward with him and asks Won Chong-soo that among the 4 groups that he had sent to attack the Again karaoke bar, Gangnam was the only one that held out until the very end and didn't do there. Why so? Won Chong-soo's stress levels could be seen from his body language, but he manages to answer the question. Won Chong-soo says that they couldn't go earlier because a random person had invaded the office and caused a huge scene by breaking furnitures and all. That is what caused the disruption, because they had to take care of that and clean up the mess he made, and thus they were late to the scene. Yoon Sang-tae asks if that is how it went down. Still nervous, Won Chong-soo says that it is exactly how it went, and when they arrived to the Again bar, he saw that Kim Gun-woo and his gang had already arrived to the scene. All the groups that went to the Again karaoke bar before them were beaten up to a pulp by Kim Gun-woo and his crew, and that's why they thought that they would stand no chance against those guys and instead decided to return safely. Yoon Sang-tae listens to this and stares a hole through Won Chong-soo, making Won Chong-soo even more uncomfortable than he was before, making him a sweaty mess. Yoon Sang-tae puts his head down and calls out Won Chong-soo by name, which startles the already scared man, and he responds over enthusiastically. Yoon Sang-tae then asks Won Chong-soo how old he is, to which Won Chong-soo says that he is 45 years old. Yoon Sang-tae, still with his head down, says that he can't bring himself to talk to someone in a disrespectful manner who is so much older than him. He asks Won Chong-soo if he is 10 years older than director Yoo In-sung, to which Won Chong-soo said that it's not true. However, things go from bad to worse for Won Chong-soo as Yoon Sang-tae gets up from his seat and walks near him with a baseball bat in his hands. He asks if that is true before coming to the meat and potato of the whole conversation. Yoon Sang-tae holds his baseball bat against the head of Won Chong-soo and asks him if he sold himself out to Kim Gun-woo. The question, alongside the baseball bat against his head, really scares the life out of Won Chong-soo, who can't bring himself to reply in this situation. Yoon Sang-tae is raged up though. He threatens Won Chong-soo by giving him the choice of either listening to whatever Yoon Sang-tae has to say or his life will be ended right then and there. Scared and with no option, Won Chong-soo quickly agrees to doing whatever that Yoon Sang-tae has to say. Cut to a different building. We see Kim Gun-woo and Shiho go and knock on a door, where a random person opens up the door. Kim Gun-woo goes inside and tells Shiho that they need to come to these obscure hospitals because if they went to public ones, they'd be reported by them to the police. Inside the room, we see Do Kyung-gu lying on a bed, bandaged up and taking treatment. Do Kyung-gu notices that Kim Gun-woo has come to see him and he immediately sits up to greet him, but Kim Gun-woo assures him that it is fine and he should lie down and rest. The doctor treating Do Kyung-gu leaves the room, while Do Kyung-gu asks Kim Gun-woo what had happened for him to come to the scene. Kim Gun-woo informs Do Kyung-gu that CEO of Gangnam Won Chong-soo had informed him about what happened and so he came. Do Kyung-gu is a bit surprised to know that Won Chong-soo of all people contacted Kim Gun-woo. Kim Gun-woo explained to Do Kyung-gu that even though Won Chong-soo was on Yoon Sang-tae's side, he still had a sense of attachment towards them because after all, they were family at one point of time. That's why he intended not to get involved and instead let Lee Sang-cheol finish off the proceedings on his own. so later he can join and not get his hands dirty. Kangu is shocked after knowing this, and he tells Kim Gun-woo that it would probably be better if they went ahead and took Won Chong-soo to their side. Kim Gun-woo says that it is the exact plan he has in mind because as things stand now, Won Chong-soo is probably in deep hot water with Yoon Sang-tae and the rest of his sub-organizations. Yiho listened to this conversation taking place without intervening, but he has a concerned look on his face. Back to the other side of the story, we see that a terrified and mentally broken down Won Chong-soo runs out of the K Entertainment office building like his life depends on him making it out of there. The local bystanders look at him and get weirded out seeing how tired, sweaty, and stressed he is looking. After getting out, he is at a loss of breath from running away so fast and from all the things that have transpired inside that building with Yoon Sang-tae and him. We get a peek into what had happened inside Yoon Sang-tae's room inside the K Entertainment office building. Yoon Sang-tae tells Won Chong-soo that Kim Gun-woo will definitely trust Won Chong-soo. So, Yoon Sang-tae wants Won Chong-soo to set up a meeting between him and Kim Gun-woo at Namyangju, where Won Chong-soo will tell Kim Gun-woo that he wants to switch sides and join the Irium distribution. Yoon Sang-tae says all this with a sinister look on his face, while he has a baseball bat against Won Chong-soo's head. Won Chong-soo is overwhelmed by all the details being fed to him and asks what does Yoon Sang-tae mean, which pisses off the wild animal of a man, and he uses the baseball bat on his to smash the desk in front Won Chong-soo with a single swing, also deforming the bat from sheer impact. This obviously puts Won Chong-soo in a deep state of fear and shock, something that he has never felt on this level before. Yoon Sang-tae, with a demonic look and aura, then goes ahead and tells Won Chong-soo that he wants to use him as a bait to fool Kim Gun-woo into a trap and get rid of him forever, and asks Won Chong-soo if he got it now. Won Chong-soo, literally trembling from fear of the monster that is Yoon Sang-tae, says that understands the plan now. As Yoon Sang-tae looks at the deformed metal baseball bat, he tells Won Chong-soo to get out and contact Kim Gun-woo. He wants Won Chong-soo to tell Kim Gun-woo that he is in fear that Yoon Sang-tae has suspicious of his activities and feels that he is in danger, so he wants to defect to Irium distribution side. Yoon Sang-tae then looks at Won Chong-soo and tells him that if he even thinks of trying something other than what he ordered him to do, this is what will happen. As he swings the baseball bat at him, barely scraping a bit of Won Chong-soo's face, giving him a gash on the cheek and blood flowing out. Back to the normal time, Won Chong-soo is seen panting, even thinking about the things that happened, and he says that in order to survive and live on, he has to do it. We then see him dialing up a number, and later we see that Kim Gun-woo has gotten a call from Won Chong-soo. Kim Gun-woo sees the call and jokingly says that he wonders if Won Chong-soo somehow heard them talking about him. He picks up the call and hears Won Chong-soo says that he wants to switch sides and join Kim Gun-woo's crew instead. Kim Gun-woo grins a little as he says that he is welcomed and that he was planning to bring him over to his side anyway. So now, Won Chong-soo is joining Kim Gun-woo's side to mislead them into a trap set up by Yoon Sang-tae to finish Kim Gun-woo off for good.